Welcome back, and everybody here's in the room. Hope you had a good break. Visit a couple of ministry tables. I'm going to invite my friend David from Crossfire Gaming to come up and join me. Did I get your name right? Did I get it? Okay, I was totally afraid that I got it wrong there for a second. Come on up and have a seat here. One of the things we like to do, we do want to highlight our sponsors and the people who've gotten behind us, but we also want to highlight some of the things that God is doing in the grassroots that we're all in of digital ministry and gaming ministry. And David, right here in Colorado Springs is some of the stuff that you're working on, which is really taking gaming, involving faith in that conversation, and then working directly with youth here in around Colorado Springs. David, give us just a little bit of your background and then just a snippet of how that drew you into starting Crossfire and what that looks like.
Sure. So I'll try and give the really quick version. So I'm a fifth generation United Methodist pastor, which is hard because then it means that I've been steeped in a lot of tradition in the way that things have always been. And yet at the same time, I've always been drawn into the question of like, what does church look like when it doesn't look like church? Which is, I think, probably where a lot of us are sitting in that space of like, is this church? Like, yes, but also it's not what church has always looked like. So in some of my learning in seminary, we talked about self-care and kind of returning to the things that give you life. And for me, that was returning to gaming as a thing that I loved when I was a kid. And so then I started seeing a lot of the community that was forming in online gaming spaces and saying, why does this community look more supportive, more loving, more caring, more generous, more genuine than what I see in church on Sunday morning, where people are bickering and they're fighting and they're grumpy about the coffee or the color of the carpet. And so I started asking, like, well, what if an online gaming community could be a church? And so back in 2017, we created a group of people to talk about that, which eventually became an online community, a podcast, a Twitch stream, and a YouTube channel. And then we've kind of pivoted lately into really something that was generated by my own kids. We were talking about summer camps and said, hey, kids, do you want to go to summer camp? And my son said, I'd rather stay home and play video games with my friends. And I said, I get that. Like, why would you want to go 5 hours away to, especially here because things are far away, why would you want to go 5 hours away with a bunch of kids you've never met to go be away from all of your technology for 5 days, which is kind of anxiety producing, versus connecting with your friends online? And especially this is in a post-COVID age where like people are finding community online. So I said, well, what if we could create a summer camp where you could come to summer camp and play games with your friends? So right now what we've been doing is this in-person summer day camp, which the best pitch I have for it is like, what if VBS were for teenagers and it was a LAN party? For those of you that are old enough, how many of you remember LAN parties?
I went to those.
Yeah. We're finding kids nowadays like don't know what it's like to play games with other people in the same room. And so giving them that experience and conversations around faith has been really life-giving, and it's been incredible to watch what God is doing with those day camps here in Denver, Colorado Springs, and up in Montana as well, because our region kind of spans this region.
That's incredible. My number one memory from LAN parties as a kid was all-nighters where I would get on a ghost in Halo and run over my own teammates, because you could kill your own people, and act like I just didn't know what I was doing. And that was my introduction to first-person shooters, and that's why I play MMOs. And so I got kicked out of that room a lot. I kept sneaking back in to get a controller. Okay, well, that's awesome. You've also come and set up here. You have the LAN set up here over in the Oaks. Why would you want to come out here to NCMS and want to bring out a bunch of gaming systems and set something up here? Why come and hang out with us here at NCMS?
Yeah, so some of it was I came to NCMS last year in Texas, had a great time, and I remember a couple of times being like, I wish there was a place we could go play video games together, like go play Super Smash. And there were a couple of people that had Switches out, and you could sit at a very small table on a very small screen. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could do a little bit more in-person video gaming? And then the other thing was just to kind of also showcase kind of the way that we set up our camp is literally taking this equipment. Right now, we've just have basically space for 12 people. We've got 6 Xboxes, 3 Switches, and 3 PlayStations. And we're looking to expand that to 36 people, which starts to get into weird questions of how much power can you really pull. But I'm sure we're going to blow a few breakers, and it's going to be fine. but really to showcase like how we set up our camps and the space and the types of games. And I'll be over there tonight, and I think I might stop by the Lux Church first, and then go back over there and host in the evening, and then also tomorrow night. And I can kind of walk you through some games that we've found to be really helpful for working with youth. Also some games that I love. I'm just going to shout out. Any of you ever played Ultimate Chicken Horse? Okay. If you know people that have kids and they're trying to find a good entry for kids who like games and adults who have never played games before, or whether you have or haven't, Ultimate Chicken Horse, phenomenal family game, good fun time, and everybody can play it. So like we found that's one of our starting points with our kids is just sit down and play Ultimate Chicken Horse and talk about how that works. So.
And you do still pastor a church, right? You're still.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
My day job is I'm the senior pastor at St. Paul's United Methodist Church here in Colorado Springs, which just celebrated 130-year birthday a couple years ago. Yeah, and most of the congregants are not quite that old. But no, I joke because it's a traditional church full of a lot of much older folks and not a lot of young people. And so trying to bridge that gap between what I do in the online space and what I do in person has been an interesting journey.
Okay, so let me ask you that, because I think there's some of us who are in the room who are pastors. There's a lot of us who are in the room who go to a church. We're passionate about this, but we're also dealing with very frequently a dated church, right? There's not a lot of young people who are running around in it who get what we're doing. Is Crossfire something that you're doing that like the church that you're pastoring is also getting on board with, understanding, and they're like, hoorah, like we're celebrating this? Or is this a thing that's like, well, that's our pastor's side hustle. He's doing something somewhere, and we know it involves them video games. Like, how has that been for you as the pastor of more of a legacy church in the Springs, but you're also trying to do this thing that is well outside of the box of what most legacy churches are comfortable with?
Yeah, so it's been a lot of conversations for me to tell them about this thing that I do. Sometimes it's just telling them, hey, I know you don't get the world of gaming, but your grandkids get it. Your great-grandkids get it, if you've got great-grandkids. Maybe even your kids, if they're old enough or young enough. But so some of that has been, they've been supportive of me and just allowing me the time. Like this week, technically I'm not taking time off. This is just part of what I do as a pastor in the Springs. But also they've been supportive. Last year they did some fundraisers. This year we partnered up with an organization called the Boulder Spirit Foundation that actually came from the sale of a United Methodist Church camp up in Montana. And they've helped us kind of in the camping space. So I've asked my local church less for help, but as we look to expand from 30 kids at camps last year to possibly up to 300 kids at camps next year, we're going to need a lot of churches' help. So probably going to go back to that and say, hey, would you support us in a missional way?
Yeah. What have you found to be the best tools to get what you're doing to click, maybe with a generation or even just, right? Like I'm in rural Western Pennsylvania. It's not even a generational gap for us. It's also a cultural gap, right? So, it's very hunting, fishing, outdoors, and that can span the whole way down through our teenagers in the area that I'm from. Not that we don't have gamers, we certainly do, but we have a lot more of that sort of blue-collar grit in our community. I'm sure you experience some of that here as well. What are some of the things that you've found that are keys to really helping people move past sort of some of the technical jargon of what you're doing? I know Jamie's going to talk about this more tomorrow too, but to see the vision and see the heart and see the importance of it.
Yeah, so when I started Crossfire, I was pastoring a church in northwestern Colorado, in Meeker, Colorado, which is, who knows Meeker? Okay, wow, okay. Do you hunt elk? Okay, well, that's probably how you know Meeker. Meeker was a town of 2,000 people, and it's the most geographically isolated town in all of Colorado. There's not another town for an hour in any direction, and it was out there that I was pastoring when COVID hit, and I was both the most grateful and the least grateful that sometimes those people never leave that community, right? But it was also a place where we saw a lot of isolation. And so when I started Crossfire, I was able to talk to these folks in that community and say, this is a thing that's bridging gaps and boundaries across geography, because the people that are in this online space can connect with one another, not only like at the church camps that we run, but long after. So we are both building community, and then, as you all know, maintaining it through like a Discord server, through it started as a Facebook group. But so it was a way to say, I know you don't get it, but see these people still have community even when they're isolated, even when they don't have a lot of folks in their immediate geography. And for people out there, the nerd culture in a tiny town is like 5 kids, right? And so for those 5 kids to see that they have community far beyond their own backyards, and to be seen and recognized and understood, was huge for us to be able to provide that connection space.
That's awesome. Well, if you're in here and you're thinking about what does it look like to do gaming in physical ministry, a hybrid, also in digital ministry, make sure that you take some time and talk with David and Crossfire. Also, go over and hang out in Oaks with him tonight and get a little gaming in, but also just dig in a little bit and learn a little bit more about what he's working on. We just give a thank you to David and Crossfire for being here and setting up the land for us this weekend.
Yeah, and
thanks so much.
And if I could make one last request, I know I said I'm hoping that all of you, maybe we need some more support, but if you just keep us in your prayers as we try and go on this journey to like try to 10x our camps for next year, I would really appreciate prayers for this. So thank you.
Amen. Thanks. Awesome.